Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. The government is in the process of finalising the mechanism for the Employees Provident Fund EPF flexible account. Deputy Finance Minister Dato' Sri Ahmad Maslan says the third account, which would be enforced next year, would allow contributors to access their savings at any time.
Akaun ketiga yang boleh diakses oleh semua ahli tanpa mengira mereka B40, M40, T20, khususnya ketika kecemasan. Ini adalah untuk manfaatkan atau meremankan beban keuangan ketika menghadapi keperluan di luar jangkaan. Sekarang ini sedang dimuktamadkan. Pengeluaran seperti dulu kita tak buat lagi.
External factors continue to drive the ringgit's performance, says Deputy Finance Minister Dato' Sri Ahmad Maslan. These include the US federal funds rate as well as the recent tensions in the Middle East.
Faktor-faktor yang mendorong penurunan nilai ringgit pada tahun ini adalah yang pertama, jangkaan bahawa Federal Funds Rate FFR, di Malaysia dipanggil OPR, di US dipanggil FFR Amerika Syarikat, akan kekal lebih tinggi untuk tempoh yang lebih lama. FFR berada pada 5.5%, Malaysia OPR 3.0%, di US 5.5%. Dalam keadaan Fed sedang berusaha mengawal inflasi. Malaysia inflasi 1.9%, inflasi di Amerika 3.7%, walaupun mereka sudah menaikkan FFR kepada 5.5, tapi inflasinya masih 3.7.
He said another factor is the weaker than expected China's economic performance and the easing of monetary policy by the People's Bank of China, causing weak investor sentiment, especially in the ASEAN region. Ahmad Maslan said possible escalation of geopolitical tensions in the Middle East has also contributed to the strengthening of the US dollar.
The proposal for the new administrative order on the use of the word Allah will be tabled at the meeting of the Conference of Rulers on October 25th to 27, says Dato' Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail. According to the Home Minister, 5 engagement sessions were conducted and their outcome had been presented to the National Council for Islamic Religious Affairs, chaired by Selangor ruler Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah.
Hasil perbincangan dah dibentang pada MKI di Pengerusi Selangor dan dijadualkan dibentangkan oleh Sekretariat MKI kepada Majlis Raja-Raja. KDN akan mengambil panduan daripada situ untuk mengadakan garis panduan yang baru bagi isu penggunaan kalimah Allah.
The decision was made following a High Court ruling which allowed non-Muslims to use the word Allah for teaching purposes. The court ruled that the administrative order issued by the Home Ministry in 1986 to prohibit its use by non-Muslims was illegal and unconstitutional. In May, the Home Ministry announced it will review this order after it withdrew an appeal against the court ruling. In other news, police have arrested another suspect in relation to the recent arrest and investigation of My Airline co-founder Alan Goh. The suspect, a man in his 40s, was detained at his home in Bangsa earlier this morning and was taken to the Jinjang Central Lockup for remand. Meanwhile, Goh will be released on police bail as his remand ends today.
The Bukit Aman Commercial Crime Investigation Department have also seized several assets, including vehicles, documents, laptops, luxury watches and handbags relating to iServe technology and Vacation Surian Berhad. Investigations will focus on reviewing documents involving iServe's business transactions. iServe is an e-commerce company in which Goh is a shareholder. It was fined 50 million ringgit by Bank Negara Malaysia last year, along with 6 other related companies for illegal deposit taking and money laundering. Goh, his wife and son were arrested at their home in Shah Alam last week. Police began investigation into My Airlines after it abruptly announced a suspension of operations on October 12, citing financial problems.
7 dams nationwide have been classified as high risk, raising concerns of further interruptions to the public's water supply. According to the National Water Services Commission Chairman Charles Santiago, many dams in the country have not been properly maintained or had their water levels audited.
The 7 dams that are in critical condition are the Pedu and Muda dams in Kedah, the Asahan, Jus and Durian Tunggal dams in Melaka, the Lingui Dam in Johor and the Mengkuang Dam in Penang. Santiago noted that 55 out of 104 dams in Malaysia are utilised for supplying water to the public. Of the 55, 16 are more than 50 years old. He added that water level readings at some dams might indicate 20 million litres per day, but in actuality, only 15 million litres per day is usable due to dead storage at the bottom. The former Klang MP called on the government to urgently review the design and safety of all dams and for regular maintenance and audits to be carried out.
Applicants seeking legal aid services can submit their applications online via the 6G Legal e-Clinic launched by the Legal Affairs Division of the Prime Minister's Department earlier today. Law and Institutional Reform Minister Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said said the new online system will begin operations on October 25th and would help improve accessibility issues for those less fortunate in rural areas. The services provided include applications for criminal, civil, sharia, mediation, legal advisory and legal representation referred to as 6G. Azalina said the system would be fully accessible online and would also show the application status of each submission. The system would also allow organizations to apply for permission to hold legal clinics or legal literacy programs sanctioned by the Legal Aid Department. More details can be accessed through the Legal Aid Department's official website soon. We will go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Aku rasa kau bukan seorang je yang dia kacau kat uni ni.
You open-minded kan?
Saya nak awak rakam video untuk saya.
I janji I takkan save.
Should I do further?
Must be something wrong somewhere kan?
Tak malu punya jantan.
Suka hati aku lah, Gobal.
Riot Rebel with a Cause. Stream episod baharu setiap Jumaat on demand dan Astro Premier.
Hanya 90 saat untuk membuat target misteri gelak secara langsung. 24 peserta.
Sila buka pintu misteri.
68 target misteri. Gelak 90 saat di Astro Warna dan Astro Go.
Hanya 10% kadar kemiskinan direkodkan di Sarawak pada tahun 2022. 2 lagi taman perindustrian baru akan dibangunkan di Sabah untuk terus merancakkan pertumbuhan ekonomi dan industri negeri. Penduduk rumah panjang di Sarawak diingatkan berwaspada berikutan insiden kebakaran melibatkan kediaman mereka. Kerajaan melihat terdapat keperluan untuk memperluaskan kawasan penanaman padi di Sabah dan Sarawak dalam usaha membantu meningkatkan bekalan beras sekaligus menjamin sekuriti makanan negara.
Welcome back. The Gaza Strip saw one of its deadliest nights of Israeli airstrikes in the past 2 weeks, with at least 436 people killed in the past 24 hours, according to Gaza's health ministry. Israel's military said it hit more than 320 targets in the past day, and that ground forces had conducted raids to search for hostages. The strikes come as Israel prepares for a possible ground operation, with large numbers of troops and tanks massed at the border. In signs that the conflict was spreading, Israeli aircraft also struck southern Lebanon overnight, while Israeli troops fought Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. In Gaza, desperate civilians are running out of food, water and places to shelter from unrelenting Israeli airstrikes. A third aid convoy of 14 trucks entered Gaza through the Rafah crossing, with Egypt late on Sunday, but the UN said much more would be needed. Meanwhile, China and the Philippines traded accusations over 2 collisions between their vessels in the South China Sea on Sunday. The incidents took place near the Second Thomas Shoal in the Spratly Islands during a Philippine resupply mission for troops stationed on a ship used as an outpost on the shoal.
Philippine officials accused a Chinese Coast Guard ship of dangerous maneuvers that led to a collision between its supply ship and a Philippine Coast Guard vessel. China's Coast Guard acknowledged there had been a minor collision, but said this happened while it was lawfully blocking the boat from transporting illegal construction materials after repeated warnings. Tensions between the two countries flared in August when Chinese Coast Guard vessels used water cannons to prevent a Philippine boat from delivering cargo. Beijing claims sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, including parts of the exclusive economic zones of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines and Vietnam.
China has launched an investigation into Taiwan-based iPhone maker Foxconn in a move that will likely to shake confidence of foreign companies in the country. Over the weekend, state media said regulators were conducting tax audits and reviewing Foxconn's land use. Foxconn's listed arm on high-precision industry fell as much as 3% today.
Foxconn is the largest manufacturer of iPhones for US tech giant Apple. It employs hundreds of thousands of people in China and is a major investor there, regularly hailed by Beijing as an example of the success of Taiwanese investors in the country. The Chinese investigation comes less than 3 months before Taiwan's presidential election, in which Foxconn founder Terry Gou is running as an independent candidate. The move also comes amid Foxconn's diversification drive, which has seen it move some of its production lines, including those for iPhones, from China to India. China often does not publicly explain the actions of its regulators, leaving companies operating in the country guessing about the government's ultimate goals.
Japan has launched an investigation into Google to determine whether the tech giant abused its market position to block rival services. The Japan Fair Trade Commission will investigate, among other things, whether Google violated rules by asking smartphone manufacturers to prioritize its search services on their devices.
The antitrust watchdog said Google also allegedly signed contracts with Android device makers to not include its rival search apps in their products in exchange for a share of the profits from advertising revenue generated by Google searches. The commission is seeking the public's input on the matter until November 22nd. Japan's review comes on top of an antitrust case the US has mounted against the global search leader. Google is facing prosecution by the US Justice Department on grounds that it illegally used its dominant position in online search to prevent the emergence of rivals.
Indonesia's Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto has announced that the eldest son of President Joko Widodo will be his running mate in next year's election. The choice of 36-year-old Gibran Rakabuming Raka could be a boost for Prabowo's campaign due to Jokowi's huge popularity. However, the move has also fueled criticism that Jokowi is trying to create a political dynasty. Gibran became eligible to contest after a controversial court ruling last Monday that allowed those aged below 40 to run for president or vice president, provided they have served as elected regional leaders. Gibran is mayor of Surakarta, popularly known as Solo. Indonesia will hold simultaneous presidential and legislative elections on February 14th next year, with nearly 205 million of the country's more than 270 million people eligible to vote. 72-year-old Prabowo has led most opinion polls this year, slightly ahead of the ruling Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle Party's Ganjar Pranowo, while former governor of Jakarta Anies Baswedan is trailing in third place. That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.